So welcome to our talk today. Again, feel free to unmute your line and ask a question at any time. That's totally fine. The name of our talk today is Why We Fail to Change and 3 Simple Steps to Succeed. And I developed this talk primarily because we have a lot of challenges with behavior change because it's not easy. It is definitely hard. So I actually started my master's degree in positive psychology, essentially, which has a lot to do with how we create behavior change and health change. And so I put this course together with some of the most recent research on really how we really set ourselves up to create change and what are the things that are the pitfalls to learn from. Because oftentimes it's really just the knowledge that is the power. So I'm currently in my master's at the University of Pennsylvania, and it's a fantastic program if you ever get a chance to look more into it. And I wanted to start out with a little video about the behavior change model. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, this is Debbie Kelsey.
Hi, Debbie Kelsey.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. In order to mute your line, you'll want to push *6, and then you can unmute it anytime you need to in order to ask a question. And who else called in? Was that someone else? I want to make sure I get you. We'll make sure we get.
Yeah, this is Alan Sanderson.
Oh, great. Okay, I already have you on my list as attending. Great.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll all get your points. Okay, so this video is a great little video by B.J. Fogg, who actually is a professor at Stanford, and it talks a little bit about behavior change. I just want to do a sound check. Can everyone hear that video?
I can't hear it, and this is Pat Nabitzi.
No, I cannot.
Okay, let's try to listen to it on the internet version and see if that works better, shall we? All right. Can you guys hear this?
Nope.
Okay, so it sounds like because you guys aren't through your computers, you won't be able to hear it.
No.
So the video is basically about behavior change, and if you see this little graph behind him, essentially what he's talking about is that as a behavior is difficult to do and our motivation is low, then you'll see we're kind of in this bottom part where we're not likely to do the behavior. If we have a higher ability to do something and our motivation is a little bit higher, then we're more likely to do something. But it requires what we call a trigger. I'm going to go into more of what that is in a minute. But what often happens is people will start out with something that's easy to do, that they're not very motivated on, and that using with triggers, you often are able to move up the slope so that you end up doing something kind of more difficult and have high motivation to do it because you've built up a history of success step by step. An example of this would be someone who says they want to start working out. And when they first start, they might not have a lot of motivation to do it, and they might just do something really easy, like or what might be easy for them, which might be going for a 10-minute walk a day. And after they continue to do that and continue to meet that goal, then suddenly they decide they're going to sign up for a marathon 6 months from then, right? So that's an example of how these small steps using triggers will get us down that curve. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but just to give you a big picture idea of kind of where we're heading. So there are 3 simple ways to succeed. We want to develop the behavior we want to change for something we can change today. We're going to talk about what that means. We want to understand triggers and replacements and how to alter our environment to support the behavior of choice. And we want to simplify. So why do you want to make a change? I want you to think about that for a second. What kind of behavior change are you wanting to make, and why do you want to make that change? I will tell you the most common response I hear from employees as part of the wellness program that they want to make a change is, I want to start being more physically active because I want to be able to get onto the ground and play with my grandchildren. That's the number one most common reason I hear for wanting to get physically active again. So we have all sorts of different reasons why we might want to do something, and it certainly doesn't have to be health related. You can use this information we talk about today in any sorts of changes you might want to make. It doesn't have to be exercise related or food related. So as we look at this list, you'll think of emotional reasons why we might want to do something. Playing with our grandchildren, because something's just fun. We might want to do it because we just enjoy it. We might want to do something because there was a death in the family. An example of this would be, for instance, my father. My father is a smoker, and his cousin died recently of lung cancer. And so it was a bit of a wake-up call to say, oh, wow, maybe I really do need to reconsider my smoking habit. So big emotional events can be a big motivator for change. And then I wrote connection to nature. This is not a complete list. There can be all sorts of emotional reasons why we might want to do something. But one reason I hear that people love to hike is that they love the connection to nature, right? And then if you go to the opposite end of the table, the future reasons. These are reasons that you often hear people tout. For instance, I want to look good, so that might be a reason to exercise or a reason to lose weight or something like that. I want to decrease my cholesterol. Well, that's great, but that definitely doesn't happen in an instant today. The losing weight in general goal, or because my doctor said I should. These are all kind of things that are kind of out there in the future and not really well defined. And then you see those two orange arrows kind of pointing back to today. So reasons why we might do something today are increased energy, sleep through the night, to feel less bloated or to have less joint pain. For instance, I might eat healthier so I can feel less bloated or have less acid reflux, or I might stop watching TV in the evening so I can sleep better, or all sorts of reasons that you can actually experience today. And here's the example I'm going to give you. So let's think of two people, Bob and Sue. Both people have an employee wellness program, and both are encouraged to be physically active. However, Bob's wellness program says, hey, if you're feeling tired or feeling like your mood dips during the day, try a 15-minute walk. And so the goal around the activity was not necessarily a future goal like losing weight or because you should, but more of something that can happen today. Like, oh, well, yeah, I do feel a mood dip around 3 p.m. or an energy dip around 3 p.m. I will go on a walk. Whereas Sue's wellness program says, well, here's what the normal range of BMI is. So if you're outside of that normal range, you should be physically active. And she thinks, okay, I'm going to do it. And her goal is to lose weight. If she goes on that first walk, is she going to lose weight? Of course, the answer is no. No, she's not going to lose weight in one day with one walk. However, if Bob decides to go on a walk and try to increase his energy or improve his mood, will he see an improvement to that after one walk? Actually, likely he will. I just heard someone add in. Did you have a question? If you're just joining us, you can always hit *6 to mute yourself and *6 to unmute yourself. So, so when we think about a behavior we want, there could be long-term goals associated with the behavior, like losing weight, but the reasons for today are actually the reasons that our mind is going to go to when we really consider whether or not we're going to do that behavior in this moment. In other words, a goal in the future can sometimes be too far out to keep us motivated in our day-to-day decisions. So, my encouragement to you is try to find what we call the right why, or the thing that the reason that motivates you that you can experience today. not tomorrow, not just because it's emotional, but something that benefits you today. So I often get the question, well, how do I know that it's really the reason for today? And these 3 bullet points really are it. It's something that's measurable, it's something that's clearly defined, and it's something you can experience today. So, for example, we were talking about Bob and wanting to go on a walk to improve his energy and his mood. He doesn't even need a fancy app to do that, although he could certainly use one. He could just do a scale of 1 to 5 in his head with my mood right now, a 2, with my energy right now, a 2. I go on a 30-minute walk, I come back, what's my mood? A 3, my energy, a 4. Immediate improvement in those goals, fantastic. Now, if he were to continue that walk every day, would he eventually see changes in some longer-term goals? Probably, but it's those day-to-day, moment-to-moment choices that we have to make, and our brains function in such a way that it's just much more likely we're going to do it if it's something we can experience today. It's clearly defined and it's measurable. However, you can also use apps to measure. I have someone on the line. Would you mind muting your line by clicking *6 if you haven't done so already, so we have a little less background noise? You can always click *6 later to unmute yourself to ask a question. Great. So then we come to this idea of what triggers and replacements are. A trigger is something that reminds you to do a behavior. And a great example of this. So when I gave birth to my youngest son, and I ended up having a lot of issues afterward with chronic pain, and it kept me from being physically active for quite a while. Then, after I'd finished on my physical therapy and I was able to be active again, I didn't know really how to even get started again. So one of the first things I did is I decided I would wake up in the morning all tired and groggy, and I would try to decide what clothing to wear to go on a walk in the morning. And it would take me so long to pick something out as I was tired and groggy that I'd already spent like 15, 20 minutes kind of putting around the house, and I'd lost a lot of time that I could have been outside walking. So I decided I'm going to just put on my walking clothes and wear them to bed. And as soon as I woke up, it became a trigger. I saw, oh, I'm wearing my walking clothes. I'm just going to get up and go for a walk right now. Another trigger I did is I put my shoes in the doorway. So I literally couldn't exit my bedroom without tripping over my walking shoes. Another trigger, oh yeah, your intention is to go on a walk today. So the idea is that you can manipulate your environment to make it easy to do a behavior, to make it hard to do a behavior, and we're going to get into what a replacement is. So I want to give an example of what it might be to make something hard using a trigger or altering your environment. So for me, sometimes triggers can happen without your consent, right? Let's say let's say this. You love watching Netflix, but you've decided you really want to study organic chemistry. You just love organic chemistry. You just never get around to looking at that organic chemistry book because you sit down on the couch and you're immediately looking at the TV. And the TV itself just sitting there is a trigger. Let's watch Netflix. So one thing that I did in the past to get myself to watch less Netflix is I took the remote and took the batteries out. And I put the remote in the attic, and I put the batteries in the downstairs basement bathroom bottom drawer of the cabinet. And then I put, what book I wanted to read where that remote control usually rested in front of the TV. So I sat down. Immediately my TV's there, I'm triggered, I want to watch Netflix. But my book is there, and then I have to go through the effort of going up to the attic and getting the remote and going down to the basement and getting the batteries. So this is just an example of how you might make a behavior hard. Now, could I do that? Absolutely. Funny because TVs these days, you can't change them channels like by hand anymore. You have to have a remote. So it's pretty easy to do that. But that being said, there's lots of different ways you could do that. An example would be I want to play more guitar. Well, then one way my husband tackled that is he decided to stop putting his guitar in its case and putting it in the closet, but leaving it out on its stand in the middle of the living room. So as soon as you sat down on the couch, it was right there, easy to play. So you can use things to make, you can alter your environment to make it easy. You can alter your environment to make it hard. So let's talk about one of our replacement goals now. So I love potato chips. And to the point that I had gotten to a point where I was eating more than my fair share of potato chips. And I might not be in control of all my triggers. So I could be driving home, driving next to a bus, and see the advertisement for my favorite potato chip. And now I'm triggered. What do I want? I want potato chips. Now I've already altered my environment. I get home, and there's no potato chips there. I've decided not to purchase them to make it hard. However, my grocery store is only 5 minutes away. I could easily just get back in the car, go drive down there, grab some potato chips, and it'd be done. It wouldn't be that hard, right? So it's nice to have replacements for certain things whenever applicable. So for me, what do I love about potato chips? I love that they're salty. I love that they're crunchy. So maybe I buy salted cashews instead. Now, if my goal is to get off salt, maybe that's a step, right? Because cashews might be a little less salty than potato chips, and then I might make another replacement down the road. But it's a way to alter your environment, supporting what you desire and want most. And so that's the piece that we don't realize we have a lot of power and control over, is our environment in many ways. So that's triggers, how to make it easy, how to make it hard, and how to replace it. The next thing I want to mention is simplification. So that BJ Fogg video that you couldn't hear, unfortunately, is it talks a little bit about what he calls making a baby step or creating a small, simple step. So the reason why I say this, and I'm going to tell you a personal story. When I went through that chronic pain episode after I had given birth to my youngest son, I didn't know how to get physically active again, and I had gone through months and months of physical therapy to get there. I really, as soon as my physical therapist said, okay, you're okay to start being active again, my first goal was, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym 3 times a week for an hour, knowing that for the last 8 months I hadn't done anything. So, how successful do you think I would have been with that goal? I guess it kind of depends on how motivated I was, or how much opportunity or how busy I was. But granted, I just had another child, so now I had 2 working full time, and I was going to go to the gym 3 times a week for an hour. Doesn't mean I can't, but it's maybe not the first step, right? So I had to break it down a little bit with some help. And I actually went to the health coaches at Vera that actually helped me break it down, say, you know, that's a great goal. Let's start with something easier. And so then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to go on a 30-minute walk at least 3 times a week while I'm at work. That's a great goal, and it's a smaller goal, so I tried that. Well, guess what? Every time I thought about going on a walk, someone would call, I'd get stuck on the phone, or there'd be an unplanned meeting, or the meeting would run late, or I'd get behind on a deadline, and I never seemed to make it. So, darn it, that didn't work. But that doesn't mean it's a failure, and that doesn't mean it was wrong. It just means, how can I back it up a little bit further? So I said, okay, if it's not working at work another day, could I potentially do it at a different time of day? Well, how about first thing in the morning? And that's what connects to that story of me going to bed in my walking clothes. Well, if I do it first thing in the morning, there's not going to be any phone calls or meetings or deadlines to stop me before I get to work. Okay. And I had planned to go for an hour in the morning. Well, that I had to back up and start with 30 minutes. And every day didn't always work. So I really started with 30-minute walk twice a week. And that was the baby step that worked for me. And when I was successful at that, and I was able to feel success repeatedly based on making those small steps and making my goals, then I added another day of the week, and suddenly I was walking for 30 minutes 3 times a week. Then I was feeling so good, before you knew it, I started jogging, and I leaped up that original graph we saw about ability and motivation, because all of a sudden I didn't feel like it was impossible, and I felt a lot more capable. So simplification is important, and I would say from a behavior change standpoint, 90% of the people that say, oh, I want to do this and this is how I'm going to do it, tend to start off with a really big leap. Now, is it possible for some people to make really big leaps? Yes. I'll have you know, as your wellness manager, that I used to be a smoker. And so I had attempted to smoke, or attempted to quit smoking several times, which was very challenging. Eventually, I got to a point where I had changed my living situation and changed my friend circle to avoid smoking and just stopped. So it's possible, but I had to alter my environment significantly to support me in that huge change. So know that how I'm trying to teach you all these pieces because you can work with all of them in different ways, knowing that simplifying is one tool, triggers and replacements is another tool in altering your environment. And there are some other things to consider as well. So failure. Everyone tends to think of failure in a really negative light, unfortunately. But the more we fail, the more we learn. Every time I tried to stop smoking, I learned something about what didn't work in that attempt. And I didn't have to make that same mistake the next attempt. So every time we make those mistakes, we're getting a better plan for the future. You're not expected to have the perfect plan from the get-go, and even if you go to a health coach or someone else, they might help you iron out some holes in their plans, but they aren't going to know your perfect plan either. Only you can know your perfect plan, and you can figure it out by altering your environment, making it simple, making it hard, using replacements, trying to simplify, and then starting back again. And so I would hope that everyone starts thinking about failure more as refinement. And I'm going to give an example of this too. So I've had lots of people come to me and say, I want to be more physically active. And I say, okay, well, what's your plan? Oh, well, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Oh, great, okay. What stops you? Oh, well, I'm just so exhausted. Well, partly you're exhausted because you're not physically active, but partly you might be exhausted because you're not getting enough sleep. How much sleep are you getting? Oh, about 5 hours a night. Well, guess what? 5 hours a night, no matter how much you think that's enough for you, is probably not enough to give you enough energy to go work out. So let's start with getting more sleep, adding 15 minutes to going to bed earlier, 15 minutes for this whole next week, and just see, right? And then if they're not successful with that, then maybe they try twice that week. You know, so there's all sorts of ways to refine and keep looking at the bigger picture and figure out which pieces are going to support you. Which leads me to the next slide. Find your fit. So I'll tell you how many times I've had someone say, okay, I'm going to be physically active, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to run on the treadmill. I'm like, okay, that's great. Do you like running on a treadmill? Well, no, I hate it. Who likes running on a treadmill? Well, then why are you going to force yourself to run on a treadmill? A treadmill is not the only way to be physically active. I keep coming back to this example because it's an easy example and I hear it a lot. But you could use any sort of behavior change. So finding something you enjoy when it's a new behavior you're trying to add is important. So if it is trying to be physically active, I remember one person saying, well, I hate all physical activity. So how the heck do I get myself to be more physically active to keep my health if I hate all physical activity? And I said, well, what do you like? What do you enjoy about life? Well, I enjoy people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy relationships I have with friends. Great. So can we set up a time where you and your best friend go on a walk around Buffalo Park and chit-chat the day away? Well, yeah, that would be great, and I would look forward to that. Great. So it's something you would enjoy. Why does this matter so much? It doesn't mean you have to enjoy every aspect of every behavior change you try to make, but it's important to put in a consideration for what you enjoy and how you might integrate it into any behaviors you're trying to add to your life. The reason for this is research shows that the more we have positive emotions during an activity, the more likely we are to repeat it. It's as simple as that. And it sure sounds pretty common sense, doesn't it? So the more positive emotions you have during something, the more likely you are to repeat it. So how can you set yourself up to have positive emotions toward a behavior that you're trying to add? And that's very different if you're trying to stop a behavior like smoking. However, you could still consider, well, in those times that I would sit and smoke, what else could I do where I would enjoy it and I could use and repeat that time? What could I do that I would enjoy and I would continue to do that behavior instead of, in replacement of the smoking, right? So this is just another tool. I heard someone come in. Do you have a question?
This is John.
Oh, okay, great. So you can always hit *6 to mute yourself if you like, John, and then you can hit *6 again to unmute yourself if you have a question. So another thing to consider when trying to find your fit is not just trying to integrate what you enjoy, but also considering what you're good at, what your strengths are. I'll give an example of this. There's actually a strength survey you can take. It's called the VIA Strength Survey. You can Google it and take it. There's a short version and a long version. I recommend the short one. And when you take it, it helps you identify what some of your strengths are. Sometimes it might be gratitude. I'm really good at being grateful for what I have. Or appreciation of beauty, the people who just will stop in awe of a beautiful scene or beautiful view. So whatever your strengths are, it might behoove you to think about how you could integrate some of your strengths into whatever behavior you're trying to do. I know that's a little vague until you go take the strength survey, but I encourage you to do it, and then you'll be able to experiment as one more tool to help you with your behavior. So as a review of what we talked about over the last half hour, there are 3 ways to succeed. Creating a change for today, right? So whatever the activity is, thinking about how you can experience it today and measure it today and be clearly defined about it. Using and altering our environment to support our selected behavior, whether we want to change something or add a behavior. And simplify, being able to take those smaller steps so that we're successful and feel good about our success moving forward. And remember, it's not failure, it's refinement. So all of these tools I've taught you, you can go back to them and continue to investigate where you might want to change in one of these areas. And find your fit. Please don't force yourself to buy a gym membership when you hate gyms. Try something else. Maybe there's restorative yoga at home that you could do from your own TV, or maybe there's going on a walk with a friend, or taking up hiking, or you love animals, so you start walking the animals at the shelter. Whatever it is, find something that you enjoy that fits you. The next screen is just some research that supports what I've been talking about today. And I wanted to also mention that there's a mentor program starting. So this mentor program starts March 12th. You can sign up for it by going to the wellness site. And if you go to March, you'll see the event start there. You can register there. And you'll want to register by March 9th in order to get in. And what this is we're pairing people based on their common behavior change interests or health interests. And then we basically walk you through how to mentor each other or how to build support for each other. So whether it's to quit smoking or to get active or to read more, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We can match you guys up, and then we're going to teach you all these different processes in more detail on how to be successful. So at the bottom there is my phone number and my email if you have any particular questions there. And then I left some time for you to ask additional questions. So at this point, if you want to ask a question, feel free to hit *6 to unmute yourself, and then feel free to ask the question. I see a question written here, which is, what is the name of the strength survey? It is the VIA Strength Survey. and I'm going to put it on the chat box, and then you can Google that and take it for free. They do have options where you can buy a full report for $40, but you don't need that. It just gives you an idea of what your strengths might be, particularly looking at your top 5 strengths. For instance, my top strength is perspective, which means that I happen to be pretty good at being able to put myself in someone else's shoes and being able to look at everybody's side of a situation. And so that means that I really love theater and literary fiction, where it really exposes the thought processes behind someone else, so I can really step into their shoes. So for me, a great activity to do with my husband would be to go to a play or something like that. So I might use that knowledge if I wanted to spend more time with my husband as a goal for a behavior. Just an example of how you would integrate this thing. So, does anyone have any questions? What I'm going to do is end the webinar here, and I'm going to hit the record button so it stops recording, and then that way your questions don't have to be recorded. So, for the purpose of the recording, thank you very much.